So our topic for today is all about graphical user interface or GUI development. So what is graphical user interface? So this is pronounced as GUI. So it presents a pictorial interface to a program. A program's GUI includes graphical elements and presents an easy-to-use visual display to the user. It is made up of graphical components such as buttons, labels, windows. We may include also text fields, checkboxes, and the like, through which the user can interact with the page or application. So there are two ways in which you can create a GUI or a GUI for your program. We have the presence of dialog boxes and GUI elements or components. So for the meantime, we'll start with GUI elements or components since we'll be dealing with the AWT elements. So in event-driven programming, so we are dealing with events or actions. Code is executed upon activation of events. So programming GUI with AWT, we have the Java graphics APIs such as AWT and Swing, which provide a huge set of reusable GUI components such as button, text field, label, choice, panel, and frame for building GUI applications. So we have here AWT and Swing. But for this time, we'll start with the AWT elements. So the Abstract Window Toolkit or AWT is Java's original platform-dependent windowing, graphics, and user interface widget toolkit preceding Swing. It is part of the JFC or Java Foundation classes, which is the standard API or application program interface for providing a graphical user interface for a Java program. So we have here the different graphic classes under the Java.AWT package. We have the first one, we have the GUI components such as buttons, text field, and labels. Another, we have our container, which includes frame, panel, dialog, and scroll pane. We also have the different layout managers such as flow layout, border layout, grid layout. We have also card layout, grid bag layout, and box layout. But for these layout managers, we'll be discuss this later on as we go on with the topic. For the meantime, we'll focus first on the layouting of components and containers. And flow layout will be our layout manager. We also have custom graphics classes such as graphics, colors, and font. So we have here the difference between containers and components. So dito sa example natin, makikita nyo na yung container can be categorized into two. We have the top level and the partition. When we say the top level container, these are the frame. When we say panel or partitions, so ito yung mga broken red lines dyan. Okay, so these are partitions or divisions. Okay, so this is the top level, the frame, and the panels as the partition. And yung mga ilalagay natin sa loob ng containers ang tinatawag na components such as label, text field, and buttons. For top-level containers, we have frame, dialog, and applet. But for our discussion for the day, we'll use frame. For secondary containers, commonly used containers are panel. So here we have the different component classes. So kung makikita dito sa figure, we have the text field, the buttons, label, this is the list, checkbox, checkbox group, and the choice. So, paano natin siya i-label? Let's have first the different description. For label, the keyword is label. It is an area where an editable text or icons can be displayed and allows to add a text description. So, dito sa example natin, this is a label. So, if we have it empty constructor, it constructs a label with no specified label. But for example, gagayahin natin ito, nakalagay dito na this is a label. So we'll have it label and then sa loob niya a string value. Example, this is label. So it constructs a label with a specified label. For button, so this is an example of button, an area that triggers an event when clicked. So kung i-declare natin siya, the keyword is button, capital B. For empty constructor, it constructs a button with no label, and for string value with string value such as click me, katulad na nakalagay dito, click me, it constructs a button with specified label. Next, we have text field. For text field, there are several parameters to be needed. When we say text field, these are areas where the user can enter text. They are useful for displaying and receiving text messages. So the user is allowed to enter for a text that is under the component text field. So if it is an empty constructor, meaning no properties, if it has a string value, there is a predefined string. So kung gagayaan natin tong enter your name here, dito siya magpo-fall. Enter your name here, enclose in double quotation. If we have a size or an integer value inside this constructor, there is a predefined size. And if we have a string and integer value, that is the combination of the two. For checkbox. For checkbox, checkboxes are two states, on and off. A GUI component that is either selected or not selected. Checkbox here is this 1, 1, 2, 3. It differs to checkbox group. Ang difference nila is, ang checkbox, you can select one or all. But for checkbox group, only one ang pwedeng iselect. So we have checkbox. If it is empty, checkbox with no label. If it is with string value, checkbox with specified label. So in this example, we have 1, 2, 3. So tatlo rin yung checkbox dito. Checkbox 1, checkbox 1, then checkbox 2, then checkbox 3. Okay? Next, we also have the checkbox group. A group of checkboxes where only one of the items in the group can be selected at any one time. So, isa lang ang pwedeng iselect dito, hindi katulad kay checkbox. So, in order to do that, we'll declare first for a checkbox group, we have the keyword checkbox group space the reference or object, say for instance CBG, is equal to new checkbox group. So in order for us to add alpha, beta, and Charlie, we have the keyword add, adding the components in the frame. So add, parenthesis, new checkbox, parenthesis, then yung label natin dito, una is alpha, comma, CBG. So yun yung reference natin dun sa checkbox group, comma, true or false, or selected or unselected. Pag selected, that is true. Pag unselected, that is false. So in this example, ang naselect ay alpha, so that is why our codes here is true. Next, na inad naman ay beta, same checkbox group, CBG, and then it is unselected. For Charlie, that is also unselected, which is false. So, yan yung format niya, checkbox, the label, the name of the checkbox group, comma, selected or unselected. For choice, ito naman, this is the combo box, but for AWT, it is identified as choice. It is like a radio button where we make a selection. However, it requires less space and allows us to add items to the menu dynamically using the add item method. This is declared as JCombo box in the swing components. So in order to do that, we have this one, the keyword choice space our reference. So, ang reference or object dito is select is equal to new choice. Kumaga nag-instantiate ulit. Then next, we'll add red, green, and blue. So, in order to add those items, we have the keyword or we have the method add item. Using the object select, we add the items red, green, and blue. And after which, we'll add that to the frame using the keyword add and then the object to choice, which is select. Okay, so we have here an example on how are we going to codes. So for example, we'll declare for a label. So in order to do that, we have the keyword label space our reference or object. So declare a label instance called label input. And then after doing that, you may construct by invoking a constructor via the new operator. So pwedeng yung label input dito is equal to new label with a specified label enter ID. Okay. Pwede silang paghiwalayin, ito yung mga naka-red font, or pwedeng minsanan, katulad nitong green font. Minsanan na dineclare at minsanang nag-invoke ng constructor via the new operator. And after doing that, we do not forget to add that in the frame using the keyword add. Add and then yung component na i-add natin dun sa ating container or frame. Another, instead of using this one, instead na ilagay natin siya sa constructor yung label, possible rin na gumamit tayo ng setText method. So in order to do that, we'll just leave it empty and then we'll use the method setText. So label input dot setText. So doon na natin ilalagay yung enter ID. So if we want also to modify, katulad niyang enter ID, papalitan ng enter password. So ang gamit na method ay setText. In order to retrieve the label's text string, i-return yung value, ang gamit naman ay getText. Okay, so we'll try to code for the following GUI. So, ang gagawin muna natin ay i-layout muna natin at wala muna tayong gagamiting event. Okay, so let's try to code this one. So, I have prepared here steps na ipa-follow natin for us to code this layout. So, as mentioned earlier, ang gagawin lang natin muna is on layout, no events or no actions to be taken. So our first step will import the desired packages. So for importing components and containers in GUI, we'll import java.awt. Import java.awt. Okay. Next step, class declaration inheriting the frame class. So our file name here is AWT demo. So we'll have public class AWT demo. We'll inherit the frame class using the keyword extends frame. So we'll inherit the frame. This is our top level container and this frame is under the AWT package. Next, declare all the components needed in the layout. So in this example, we have checkbox group, we have choice, buttons, checkbox, label, and text field. So we'll start first with our checkbox group. So in doing that, we'll encapsulate it as private checkbox group, example CB. Then next, we have choice, private choice. We'll name it or our object or reference example is CH. Then next, we have button, only one button, private, keyword button, and our reference or object, for instance, button test. Next, we have checkbox. So our keyword there is checkbox. And then the object or our reference, say for instance, CB test. Another, we have here label. So we'll use keyword label and our reference, for example, label test. And lastly, we have text field, private text field. We'll name it text test. Okay. So, ito na yung mga names ng ating different components. So, all of the components, i-declare natin minsanan. Next step, declaration of constructor or same name with the class declared. So, the name is AWT demo. So, this is a constructor. Next, step 5, we will set for the title. Title here, naka-indicate ay AWT. So, our method na gagamitin natin is set title. Then, sa loob, yung string value. AWT. Okay? This set title could also be written as super AWT. So, it's either of the two, super or set title. Okay, next, set for the size. We're referring to width and then height. So, in doing that, the method to be used is set size. Then, we'll have the first parameter, which is the width, followed by the height. So, we'll have it a trial and error. So, pwede nating gawing 320 by 200. So, 320 is the width and 200 is the height. Next, if we want to display our interface in center screen, we'll use set location relative to null. Take note on the title case, L, R, N, T. Okay. Step 6, we'll set for the layout manager. For the meantime, ang gagamitin muna natin ay flow layout. In the succeeding lessons, I will discuss the different types of layout manager. But for the meantime, we'll use flow layout. So in doing that, the method that will be used is set layout. And then new flow layout. Okay, so yan na muna for the meantime. Kasi maraming layout managers yan. Okay, next step, we'll instantiate and set the individual components. So, yung mga components natin ay na-declare na natin dito sa step 3. So, in order for us, para hindi natin makalimutan, pwedeng i-kopya na lang muna natin. We'll remove the keyword private. Then, we'll instantiate them one by one. Para hindi rin tayo malito, pwedeng kopyahin na lang natin to. Then, equals new. Okay, checkbox group. So, we'll instantiate them first, one by one. New choice. And next, we have button is equal to new button. CB test is equal to new checkbox. Also have here label test is equal to new label. And lastly, we have the text field. It's equal to new. So we are through instantiating for the different components. Now let's proceed with the properties of these components. So maglalagay na tayo ng label or kung ano man yung nakalagay dito. Now let's have checkbox group. So for checkbox group, there are 3 radio buttons here. So, ang gagawin natin, i-add natin tong tatlong ito sa checkbox group. Doon sa ating container or doon sa frame. So, mangyayari yan under step 8. Okay? Next, let's proceed to choice. For choice, this is the combo box for swing components. So, maglagay na lang tayo dito ng item. Since combo box ito, so pwedeng lagyan na lang natin ng choice item 1, choice item 2, and choice item 3. Maglagay na lang tayo dito ng listing niya. So in order to do that, we have the keyword, the name or our reference, ch dot add item. So example, yung unang list natin ay choice item 1. Tas yung another is choice item 2 and choice item 3. Okay. So later on, so ang mangyayari dyan, yung listing na ng choice natin or yung combo box natin, meron na siyang 3 items. Okay, next, we have the button test. So as you will notice, may description siya ditong nakalagay na test button. So pwedeng ilagay na lang natin siya doon sa ating constructor. Test button. So may label siya or description siya na test checkbox. So pwede ring ilagay natin dito, test checkbox. Same is true for the label. In the label, test label. So dito na rin natin ilagay test label. So this is applicable also for set text. And lastly, we have text test or may naka-indicate na text sa loob ng text field. That is test text field. So in order for us na ma-layout natin yung ganitong display ng text field, we may write a specific size. So, for the meantime, gawin nating 40. Ang tendency kasi, kung hindi natin yan lalagyan ng size is, marireduce lang or hindi maidi-display yung ganyang kalaking length ng ating text field. So, we'll have it example 40. Next, number 8. We'll add the individual components directly to the frame. So, for this example, ang gagawin muna natin, ilalagay muna natin lahat sa iisang frame. So, later on our next examples, gagamit na tayo ng panel. So, dito, directly muna nating ilalagay lahat sa frame. So, the components will be arranged in the order they are added. So, we'll start with checkbox group. So, dito na, i-add na natin itong CB item 1, CB item 2, and CB item 3. So, we'll use the keyword add, followed by new checkbox, and then sa loob, yung label. So, in this, the first one, we have CB item 1, comma, kung saan natin siya i-add na checkbox group that is named as CB. CB. And then, kung selected or unselected. So, in this example, it is not selected. Kaya ang gagamitin natin ay false. So, this is for checkbox group lang. Okay. We'll copy and just edit na lang. So, this is CB item 2. We are referring here. And it is false. For CB item 3, it has been selected. So, this is true. Okay. So, we are through adding these 3 checkboxes to the checkbox group CB. Okay. Next, let's proceed to choice. We'll add CH into our frame. We have add CH. So, add na lang natin lahat. For test button, we have button test. Add button test. Okay, ang next na i-add natin ay checkbox. That is CB test. Next to be added, label test. So, flow layout yung ginamit natin. So, the components will be arranged in the order they are added. And lastly, we have text field that is text test. kailangan nating i-add yung mga components doon sa ating frame. So, kung hindi natin sila na-add, useless yung na-declare natin ditong mga components. Okay, next, we'll register the source with listener. So, for the meantime, we'll skip this one kasi ang gagawin pa lang naman natin is pure layouting. For 10, end of constructor. Okay, so close lang natin yung constructor. Same is true for step 11. For step 11, event handler. So, this would be done in the succeeding lessons then kasi more on layout muna tayo. So, we'll skip 9 and 11. And for 12, we'll declare for the main method responsible for the compilation. Then next, we'll call the constructor by declaring an instance of the class. So, na-declare natin itong mga components natin sa loob ng constructor. Therefore, ito yung tatawagin natin. AWT demo, example demo is equal to new AWT demo. Okay, step 14, set the constructor of the class instantiated to make it visible. So, in order to do that, we'll use the object demo set visible true. So, magvi-visible or magiging visible yung ating constructor. Next, automatic termination of the program once exit or close. This is not applicable for AWT. So, we'll skip this portion also. And lastly, we have the end of the main method and end of the class. Okay. So, let's try to run this file if ma-follow niya itong layout dito. Okay. So, that's it. Medyo na lampas yung ating size ng label. So, pwede ang gawin natin. We'll stop. Then, gawin na lang nating 30. Run natin. Ulit. Yun. Okay, so it matches to this one, CB item 1, CB item 2, then choices natin, yun o, choice item 1, 2, and 3. Okay? So that is how are we going to lay out GUI in Java.